Norfolk Southern has big plans to significantly increase the volume of less stable double-stack trains through Pittsburgh's most densely populated neighborhoods. Combined with the transport of volatile oil and gas on this same route, the potential for catastrophic consequences is of great concern. And now, a veteran Norfolk Southern engineer with 21 years on the job has filed a whistleblower lawsuit in the U.S. District Court that sheds light on the company's actual commitment to safety. Despite Norfolk Southern's public statements touting safety, behind closed doors, it's another story. In fact, the company appears to be sacrificing safety in order to meet departure times and maximize profits. According to the complaint, engineer Russell Pozowski reported 40 federal safety rule violations over a 3-month period, causing trains to be taken out of service or delaying their departure so that additional inspections or repairs could be performed. Pozowski found these violations to be especially significant because of hazardous materials on board. But rather than being praised for his efforts, according to the complaint, engineer Pozowski received negative feedback and was given restrictive new job aid guidelines capping the amount of time allowed for pre-departure inspections. According to Pozowski, these time caps were insufficient to perform adequate inspections and comply with federal regulations. Pozowski has previously been told that on-time departure was more important than adequate pre-departure inspection, and the job aide confirmed that Norfolk Southern had chosen productivity over safety. This was especially distressing because most of his trains carried hazardous materials. Ultimately, his employment was terminated. This case is more than a labor dispute. It's important because it calls into question whether there is a system-wide, top-down pressure on engineers to shortcut inspections throughout Norfolk Southern's network. It is especially troubling to the 27 neighborhoods impacted by the railroad's vertical clearance project in Pittsburgh. After all, the derailment blast zone along the proposed route contains our city's most critical infrastructure, including all major hospitals, museums, 3 stadiums, the convention center, the city's main power plant, telephone switching stations, 124 schools, 5 universities, 77 bridges, 6 nursing homes, and 108 parks. While Norfolk Southern offloads emergency response to individual communities and continues to reap profits, local communities are left holding the bag when disaster strikes. The Pennsylvania Department of Emergency Management and Allegheny County Emergency Services both claim to be prepared to deal with the derailment dangers, but their interest in not alarming the public means that the public is kept in the dark on the hazmat disaster risks. And it's irresponsible to pretend the risk can be managed. In fact, the Federal Department of Transportation's Emergency Response Orange Book tells firefighters to evacuate a 1-mile blast zone, let it burn, and retreat. In a densely populated metropolitan area, this could result in catastrophic consequences. In reality, local emergency responders are not funded or prepared for this type of catastrophe. And the volatility of chemicals and gases in these tank cars puts first responders and residents in peril. For example, one rail car carrying chlorine would release 180,000 pounds of gas, spreading a deadly cloud 15 miles long and 4 miles wide in just 10 minutes. It is impossible to evacuate the city in 10 minutes. The transport of hazardous cargo next to less stable double-stack trains on a zigzag route through Pittsburgh's most heavily populated neighborhoods over ancient city water and sewer lines is a recipe for disaster. Hunter Harrison, the CEO of Canadian Pacific Railway, has actually gone on record saying that, because of the risk, his railroad will use alternate routes around his cities when they exist, and alternate routes do exist in Pittsburgh. Anyone can see, from the heavy graffiti on many train cars, that the rail system is not exactly secure, and the last thing we need in our city is actual bomb trains. Norfolk Southern should be doing everything possible to ensure their trains don't go off the rails, but the whistleblower complaint is more evidence that safety is not the company's top priority, and it's clear we cannot simply rely on an emergency response to an inevitable crisis. We must focus on prevention, and that means holding Norfolk Southern accountable. The Federal Rail Administration and the Pennsylvania Utility Commission both have jurisdiction over Norfolk Southern's operations and the safety of rail crossings, respectively. In order to protect your family, your property, hundreds of thousands of Pittsburgh residents, the city's most critical infrastructure, and our water supply, sign our letter demanding special inspection oversight of Norfolk Southern.